Hey everyone, it's Lauren, your sewing buddy, here again, this time all by myself. Back to your Sewing Buddy Classics. I'm doing embroidery today. I've got my second spacing, I guess, drawn out, and then I'm going to be filling it all in with what's called a shading stitch, which is sort of, you know, when you're coloring with crayons or colored pencils, and there's that point where your one row of coloring meets the next one, so it's a little bit darker and you can tell like it wasn't all just one smooth thing. So that is what this tries to prevent from happening with your embroidery, to fill in spaces. You're just sort of creating almost haphazard stitches, like they are technically in rows, but you've got a short stitch next to a long stitch, next to a medium stitch, and it's all wherever you feel like putting a stitch, you put a stitch. And what I'm embroidering here is going to be the bolero jacket from the rehearsal dress from Moulin Rouge, which was a 2009 movie. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. It's gorgeous. So I've trimmed it, or I've cut out the pattern piece, and then I have it pinned onto another piece of fabric so that I can embroider it while keeping that tension but not fraying the hell out of my edges by trying to keep it tight on the embroidery hoop. The loop at the end of this embroidery hoop is bull poop. My thread catches on it all the time, and I don't know, I should have paid more attention to how I was angling my fabric in the ring. I could, of course, just loosen it and reposition that, but then what would I have to complain about? So, in exciting news, my friend Asher, who you may remember from last week, is going to try his hand at drawing fashion flats for me, which has been a huge hurdle in me actually producing any sort of fashion line, because I don't trust myself to draw the flats by hand, and I'm not really proficient with drawing on computer. But Asher, as he mentioned, has that arts degree specializing in two-dimensional art, which is what fashion flats are, and with the croquis to use as a base and computer drawing programs, it should be fairly simple. We were going to do a test run today, but my husband has a cold and I don't want that to pass on to Asher, so we're going to skip that until next week probably. But next week Asher will not be my guest. My guest will be Alex, who loves to cook. They do all sorts of international dishes, so not only do I get someone to interview, I get someone to hang out with for the day, and I get someone to cook us dinner, so it's a win on all angles. I think my plan for this channel right now is to do sort of rotating formats, so one week it'll be like this, where I'm talking at you while I work on something. The next week it'll be some sort of a stash video or haul video or what have you. Like, we could still look through all of my fabrics, we could look through all of my trims, we could look through my costuming. That's at least 3 videos worth, if not more. And then the interviews, my sewing buddies, where you get to meet my friends. I'm still working on getting people who would like to be interviewed. I mean, I've only got the one under my belt, and then I've got the one set up for next week. So hopefully more of my friends will want to step forward and, you know, tell us about their craftiness, because I know I have a lot of very creative friends. So it would be a lot of fun. And I do consider LARPing to be a creative activity. So if one of you just wants to come on and talk about your LARP characters and your journey with LARP, then we will talk about that, because that is a beautiful and creative experience as well. And I also, of course, want to hear about what you're making, and also what you want to see here. If one of my formats isn't working for you, let me know why. How can I make this better? Because, of course, one day I would like to be monetized, and that is far, far off based on the numbers right now. But I know that these things don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of work. And that's true for any of your creative pursuits as well. Like, you don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I can draw, or oh, I can sew. It's, I would like to draw, or I would like to sew, and then you work at it and find out things that don't work and things that do work, and watch some YouTube videos and learn new skills. And yeah, it's eventually you wind up with people who see your stuff and want to buy it, and it's a really weird experience. I've actually had one of my customers at work say that she really liked the skirt that I was wearing, and I said, oh, thanks, I made it. And that turned into me making it for her. We didn't talk pricing, which is a big no-no. I told her to pay me what she thinks is fair, but I should honestly set a price for it. I'm not going to discuss here in case by some random chance she sees it. So I'm just going to hope that her value of what it's worth equals what a professional cost sheet would say it's worth. And that's a fun video to do too, would be cost sheets. Although Nick Avario already has a very good one. I think I mentioned that before. Just detailing out every single thing that is a cost in producing a garment, and then how to figure out what that equates to as far as a wholesale cost, which turns into ridiculous numbers, but also that's what you're worth. I mean, if you want to be a luxury brand, then don't sell yourself short to start with. Don't say, oh, I'm just starting out, no one's going to pay $500 for this. If you start out at $50, you're going to struggle when you decide you want to sell it for $100, let alone $500. So, always start out at your true value. So getting back to what I'm doing here, I finally started the shading now that the entire shape is outlined. Oh, I haven't actually shown you this dress yet, so let me insert that really quick and we'll talk about it. And this is maybe not the greatest photo, but it's the rehearsal dress from Moulin Rouge. It has a very short amount of screen time as well. But as you could see there, it has a lot of embroidery around the trim on the bolero jacket. It has an insane headpiece, which is something I'm going to have fun crafting later on. And then just that fit of the dress is something I'm hoping that I can replicate. It looks kind of like it has a waist seam, but it's a very, almost more of a high hip seam. So hopefully that's accurate, and I just need to press out the seam very tightly so that it's very smooth overall. Something I really enjoy about having an embroidery project is that it's something that I could take with me to work or to a social situation and, just work on while I'm talking with people or between customers when the store is all clean. And then at home, I can focus on things like putting the actual dress together or figuring out the headdress or working on something else entirely. But I'm still getting progress made on this project, which, again, I'm starting now when it needs to be done by the end of July because I have all of this embroidery to do. It's taken me probably a week to finish that first piece, but that was a lot of off and on work, and I also made that skirt for the customer in the meantime, so it wasn't like a solid week. I probably could have done it in 2 days if I was very focused on getting that done. So hopefully it won't take too long to do the embroidery, and then I'll be able to bust out the rest of the costuming and then actually have a few months to work on my own things before costume college. I mean, these are my own things, but also Like, I would like to make new clothes for work. I would like to do that fashion line thing. These are, you know, things that need things that I need to do in order to feel like I'm accomplishing things, if that makes sense. Even though I am accomplishing things, I don't know, it's a checklist, but it has different tiers, but depending on my mindset, the priorities shift. Being a creative is difficult. Being a mentally healthy creative is almost impossible. But you do it because you love it, and that's why we're all here to support each other. So again, I really want to hear about what you do creatively, and let me know in the comments what I can do to make this more supportive for you. And I will see you next week with my friend Alex. Go create beautiful things in the meantime, and I'll see you soon.